Matthew chapter 2. Start verse 1. We're going to try to get down through, who knows? We might do the whole chapter. We'll just see. Verse 1 says, Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea. We'll stop right here. Matthew chapter 2 is packed full of fulfilled Old Testament prophecies. In Matthew chapter 2, there's 4 Old Testament prophecies in Matthew chapter 2 alone that are fulfilled. I had to write them down to remember them. One, he's born in Bethlehem. That was from prophesied in Micah chapter 5 verse 2. He's going to be taken into Egypt. He's going to, Herod is going to kill all the child 2 years and younger. That's in Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 15. And then Jesus is going to live in Nazareth. All that in this one chapter. So there's a lot going on in Matthew chapter 2. So when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, I'll talk more about this in a minute. Herod is one bad dude. I'll just leave it right there, but he is mean. Behold, there came 3 wise men from the east to Jerusalem. Y'all didn't say anything. How many wise men came? We don't know. We don't even know how many gifts they brought. They brought 3 types of gifts. But we don't know that there were only 3 gifts. But there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Stop. There came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. Y'all hang on to that. Saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. Why did they come to Jerusalem? They saw his star. My personal belief, you don't have to believe this, it was Jesus' star. It was a special star meant just for Jesus. That's what I believe.
And it was a lot more than that when we stayed down all night looking at one night recently.
Oh yeah. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I think it was his star. But why did they come to Jerusalem?
I think that star led them to.
Nope. I think that's a misnomer. And we're going to see that here in just a minute. Jesus, King of the Jews. Where would you expect a king to be? In Jerusalem. Jesus, King of the Jews. If you do a really in-depth study of Daniel, I think it's chapter 9. These were wise men, knowledgeable men that had studied. Daniel chapter 9, pretty much, if you're smart enough to figure all the other stuff out, gives a really close time for the birth of Jesus. You put that along with all of a sudden, my belief, bam, there's a star that appears that has not been there. There's a star that obviously is big enough, bright enough. I mean, they didn't have telescopes like we have now. I mean, just bam, here is this really unusual, I'll put it like that, unusual star. So they make their journey, however long it was, the assumption being he's going to be, the king will be in Jerusalem. Verse 3, when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. He was troubled does not mean that he's worried, does not mean that he's just a tad upset, does not mean that he's can't figure out what's going on. Herod was ruthless. As I said earlier, Herod was one bad dude. Herod had his own family members killed. Herod was capable of anything. And when it says all Jerusalem was troubled with him, the citizens of Jerusalem understood how mean, how ruthless Herod was. They knew that he was capable of anything. They didn't know what was going to happen. Herod has gone on a rampage. Herod is furious. So they're very uneasy. Verse 4 says, and when he had gathered all the chief priests and the scribes of the people together, I don't think he sent out an open invitation. We're going to have coffee and donuts. Y'all need to come to the palace. It says he had gathered. I think he sent his soldiers. Here again, my personal belief. He sent his soldiers and basically he had them arrested. Look what it says. He demanded of them where Christ should be born. Now, who does he bring into the palace to figure out what these wise men are talking about? Chief priests, scribes, the religious leaders. When the shepherds saw Jesus, when the angels came to the shepherds, when the shepherds went and saw Jesus, what did they do? They rejoiced. When the angels told the shepherds, what did the shepherds do? They left their fields. They went and they found Jesus. They made the effort. When the wise men who had studied, and then this star appears, what did they do? They made the effort to go find Jesus. The religious leaders and the scribes, what did they do? Verse 5, and they said, this is the religious leaders, in Bethlehem of Judea, for it is written by the prophet, and thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. They're not excited. They're not curious. They're scared to death. Oh, if we don't give Herod the right answer, he'll kill us. Bethlehem is about 5 miles south of Jerusalem. Today, 5 miles is nothing. Even then, 5 miles was nothing. They could have easily walked the 5 miles. But now these chief priests, I think we'll study as we get into Matthew a little bit more. They weren't really well liked. They liked the money. I'll just put it like that. So I'm sure they had horses. They had buggies. They could have easily gone to Bethlehem. The religious leaders, they did absolutely nothing. They gave Herod the answer, and they left the palace. Whew, got out of that one. Didn't think a thing about it anymore. Verse 7, then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. Herod is ruthless. But these wise men weren't from his country. So he just had a secret meeting with them. He could have killed them, but it wouldn't have been wise. He didn't want a war with another country. It says, inquired of them diligently. He interrogated them as nice as he could, but they were under interrogation. Verse 8 says, and he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child, and when you have found him, bring me word again that I may come and worship him also, lying through his teeth. Now, I think these men, they weren't dumb. We've already established that fact. I think they kind of got the idea that something's just not right here. But he says, he lies. You go find him. You go find him. And then let me know where he is, so I can come and worship him. Verse 9, when they had heard the king, they departed. Now get this. And lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them till it came and stood over where the young child was. Now what happens to the star? It moves. Before, they had just seen the star. It was there. But now, and think about this. Here to Waldo's 7 miles, about. This star, they see in the sky. It's got to be low enough, big enough, bright enough. If a star moves for us, we'll just say the moon. Can you tell that it's moved 5 miles? Will it bring you directly to a point? This star, it led them directly to Jesus. Talk about GPS. I mean, this is the first GPS the world has ever known. Somehow, this star is big enough, bright enough, low enough. I don't know how God worked it out, but he led them. It was a pinpoint place that it led the wise men to a house, a pinpoint location, not just a block. It led them directly. Verse 10, well, finish up verse 9. Went before them till it came and stood over where the young child was. Directly led them to the address, to the house on the street where Jesus was. Now, we all understand this. Young child. Doesn't lead them to the stable. Doesn't lead them to a baby. To where the young child was. We'll talk more about that in a minute. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. I'm going to repeat myself. The shepherds, when they saw Jesus, what did they do? They went away what? Rejoicing. The wise men, who weren't even Jews, they rejoiced. The religious leaders did absolutely nothing. That ought to clue us in. And when they were come into the house, now I found verse 11 interesting. When they were coming to the house, these wise men evidently had some money. They brought very expensive gifts. If you think you're going to see a king, what's going to be your mindset? What theirs was initially, they went to Jerusalem. They went to the palace. So in their mind, they're thinking they're going to see a young child dressed in royal apparel with servants all around him, living in a really big fancy house or a palace. What did they find? And when they were coming to the house, just a plain Jane ordinary house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother. Notice in Scripture, when Jesus and Mary are mentioned together, who comes first? Jesus. Always. They saw the young child with Mary, his mother. They didn't see a bunch of servants. He wasn't dressed in royal apparel. He wasn't in a palace. He was just in a plain house, plain clothes, with just his mother. But look at their reaction. Notice this. And fell down and worshiped him. What had been their mindset? Who did they think they were going to see? A king in royal apparel, in a big fancy palace with a lot of servants. But yet they found just a child in plain clothes with just one other person there, his mom. But what did they do? They fell down and worshiped him. They knew they were in the presence of greatness. They knew. Not even Jews. They knew they were in God's presence. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. 3 types of gifts. Very expensive gifts. God's got a plan. Very expensive gifts. I want to stop here just a moment. This lesson is not about Mary. But let's go back. Let's go to Luke chapter 2, just in your mind. When the shepherds appeared, she's in the barn. Jesus has just been born. And when they left, what did it say about Mary? And she pondered all these things in her heart. A year, possibly 2 years, have elapsed. They're in a house. She's lived with Jesus now 1 to 2 years. You think she knew he was special? But then life kind of gets, I won't say in the way, but they've got their routine down. The shepherds have come and gone. Really nothing else spectacular has happened. She lives with Jesus every day. That in itself says a lot. But then just out of the blue, these very wealthy men, however many it was, they just show up at her house one day. And they walk into her just plain Jane lowly house. And they immediately started worshiping this child. Her child. Jesus. You think she's still pondering these things in her heart? What, I know the lesson's not about Mary. But can you just imagine what's going through her mind at this point? And then it says, in verse 12, and being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. How long did they stay there? Was it a week? Was it just this one visit? Remember, Herod is a bad dude. Bethlehem's only 5 miles. How long would it take you to walk 5 miles? An hour? Or is that too fast? Hour and a half? 2 hours? Not long. How patient do you think Herod was? Take you long? Okay. How patient do you think Herod was? Not very patient. Just in my mind, and this might not be right, they show up. They worship Jesus. Mary is just sitting back, thinking back to when Jesus was born. Nighttime comes. I said that because in being warned of God in a dream, they get up and they leave. I think they already kind of figured out something's not right here. But look at verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Who appeared to Joseph saying, it's okay to marry Mary? The angel of the Lord. I'm guessing it's the same angel, possibly Gabriel, that appeared to Mary. Appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I give thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, in my mind, he has the dream. This angel has already come to him before. He's lived with Jesus for 1 to 2 years. Do you think Mary has told him what happened? Look what they brought Jesus. Look what we have. Plenty of money. Joseph is thinking, wow. Angel of the Lord comes and he says, go. What did Joseph do? He went. He didn't question. He didn't dilly-dally around. The angel of the Lord comes to him. He gets up. He took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt. He left. Mary, we've got to go. We've got to go right now. We don't see where Mary questioned. They just went. Verse 15, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken out of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, I'm thinking no more than the next day. They could have easily gotten back to Herod. It's only 5 miles. Pretty quickly. He was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, In Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, because they are not. But when Herod was dead, I don't know how long this took. I don't know if they were there for a few days, few weeks, few years. It's less than 12 years, we know that. But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord, it doesn't say the angel of the Lord, might have been a different one, appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life. Don't know how long he was there, but God took care of them. The gifts that they brought. Was Joseph rich? No. Could he have afforded to have just left everything, fled into another country? Monetarily wise, no. But God took care of it with the gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Verse 21, and he arose and took the young child and his mother and came into the land of Israel. Now, have we seen up to yet any disobedience on Joseph's part? Once again, this lesson is not about Mary, it's not about Joseph. But has there been any disobedience? Why did God choose Joseph and Mary? Kind of get a clue right here. Every time he was told to do something, however odd it was, he did it. And he arose and took the young child and his mother and came to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus did reign in Judah in the room of his father Herod, he was afraid to go thither, notwithstanding, being warned of God in a dream, yet another dream. He turned aside into the parts of Galilee, and he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene. God has everything worked out. But it took the obedience of Mary and Joseph to make everything work. Now, could they have been disobedient and God still worked it out? Yes. But notice how smoothly things went when they were obedient. Is there not a lesson that we could learn from that? How much smoother things could be for us if we were always obedient. That's all the lesson. Oh, my